We're going to talk on non-violence of Mahavir. Life is very complex. It's not easy to understand, not easy to implement, and not easy to live. For most of the people, struggle. They suffer.
Life or wife?
Life, wife. Wife is part of life. So the most complex thing about life is lot more than what we see outside. And there is so much part of the life that we don't see, and yet it exists. And since we don't see it, we tend to ignore. So the people who are materialistic and the only thing they know, they can touch, they can smell, they can hear, that's all they can handle. So that's all they deal with, and they never get into the spiritual aspect. And yet spirit is what feeds the whole world. It's like electricity. You may have all the appliances that you may want, but if there is no electricity, all the appliances are down. So it's the life force that sustains the whole world, is part of the whole equation, but nobody pays attention to it. And that makes it very complicated. Because the thing is that if you pay attention to only one part and not the other, you tend to divide everything. And your approach to the life is in a divisive fashion, that you call life as what we see and death as when you don't see. It's like almost like a tree has grown and all you care is about the tree and not about the roots. It's like people don't care about if you neglect the roots, the tree will die by itself. But people don't have enough vision to appreciate both. So the people like Mahavir, Krishna, Muhammad, all those things had looked at the life in totality. Whether you consider the roots or the tree, the whole thing is a tree. Just what we see outside, if we call it life, and the other aspect where we don't exist and we neglect that, which is the spiritual aspect, then we are having only the partial vision of the life. And that's where the duality comes in. People say life is important, death is bad, but never realizing that life or death is a part of the total existence. To have a total outlook, you have to go within and realize where the problem is. So to realize the inside and outside of life, we really need to have a total approach. For that, the most important thing, Mahavir calls it, is apramad. Apramad means lack of laziness, means awareness. The conscientiousness. Like you are more conscious about your inside, psyche, what's going on within you, what's your mind doing, what your inside spirit is doing, what's your intellect doing. All those things are very important. Once we take care of that, whatever happens outside will be the result of whatever we're doing inside. So very few thinkers have existed like Mahavir who have taken the whole thing into account. Whether there is a chicken or the egg, we tend to divide. Chicken is chicken. It's not egg. Not realizing that chicken is already holding the eggs inside that's going to come out one of these days. And at the same time, egg is already holding the chicken, which is going to come out one of these days. The people who really ask the questions, whether what came first, chicken or the egg, they are really not getting the point, because that's not the type of question that we should be asking. It's really a question that really should not be brought up in the first place. The reason being that we tend to neglect the total picture. If you look at the whole thing and set up the connection, it's very easy to understand. Some philosophers have said that what is an egg? Egg is chicken's way of making more chickens. So then you see the continuation. Chicken was first. It devised an egg so you can have more chickens. So the continuity is there. The same way, what is chicken? It's eggs way of creating more eggs. So now you're concentrating on the eggs which are here. It brings out the chicken, so the chicken can lay more eggs. So the continuation of the eggs is over there. So you see the point, the continuity is more important. That way we can say why people die. Only because more beautiful children can be born again. The same energy which is circulating around is making the different forms of people. So when you look at the totality and the extensive, how expands the consciousness is so wide open, at that level you start appreciating that why the dinosaurs were made and then what happened to the dinosaurs. They were destroyed to create more animals. And the mammals came, and the mammals came, and the whales came, the elephants came, and the human beings came, and someday the human beings also will be gone. So at the existential level, it's just a process that's going around. On a bigger scale, existence is always there. What form it takes, it does not matter. So when we realize this, our attachment to one particular form starts going down. So that was the concept of Mahavir, that if you change the outside and not take care of the inside, you're doing something wrong somewhere. But then there are some philosophers, they say, well, this is all we see. Say, how do you define your character? How do you create your violence? How do you fix your inside? They say, and these are the people who are only materialistic view, they say, well, if you steal, stealing, the process of stealing creates a soul which is of a stealing nature. And say, you did the stealing now, you got away with that, the next day you're going to steal again, because now your soul knows you can get away. So they think the feedback comes from outside. And there is another school of thought. They say, you find out the roots why your soul has a tendency to steal, where the problem is, what is the right thing, what is the wrong thing. You go inside and you ask yourself, if you go into meditation and you find out your true nature, which is nothing but spiritual, at spiritual level, there are no banks, there are no bank accounts. Whatever you do gather, not a single penny goes into the soul. Your body holds on to it, your safe deposit vault holds on to it, but doesn't really go in. What goes in is your satisfaction that you have money, but actual money doesn't go in. If you smell a rose, you enjoy the experience, but the rose doesn't go within you. Even the chemicals that brought the fragrance, once the rose is gone, what leaves is just a memory. It's in a thought. It's a thought process. So your mind basically holds on to all these memories. And now you have to deal with it. And whether you liked it, you disliked it, you hate rose, you don't like rose, what could have been a bad smell, and then you have bad experience. Then, so ultimately you're left with your mind. So your mind is a vault that holds on to all the memories. If you meet a friend, you're happy. If you meet an enemy, you were unhappy. All those things, ultimately, the outside world does not go within. The way it goes within is in the form of thoughts. So thoughts are something you're left with. And how to arrange those thoughts, how to fix the thoughts, the power again is held by the spirit itself. So going within is more important to ultimately affect your behavior. So if you realize your true nature, that you are nothing but unlimited, infinite consciousness, at that level, where is your greed? At that level, you're going to walk away, no matter how much money you steal, $1 million, $10 million, $50 million, but you're going to walk away with only thoughts about it. That's it. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, you don't have nothing to hold on to. And then it says, why do I have to steal? For what? Ultimately, when this life ends, I'm going to walk away without it anyway. So internal cleansing, I think, is more important. That's what Mahavir says. The inside is, that's why he gave the word pratikraman. Pratikraman is what they do in the Paryushan. Mm-hmm. The atikraman means attack, and pratikraman is opposite of the attack. You go within. Outside, you attack somebody else, it's called atikrama. But when you attack yourself within, it's pratikrama. It's not an attack, but it's like that kind of fervor, that kind of enthusiasm that you will have. Like if you want to get the work done outside and you have enthusiasm, let's get this done, let's get that done. The same kind of enthusiasm, if you have it to go within, then you will find the way. So, apramad means the observation. So, awareness is what is needed to realize that what we are doing and where we are going. If we don't have awareness of all these things, it's very easy to get sucked into the material aspect of life, because material aspect of life is going to keep you busy all the time, whether you are involved in making money, doing drugs, alcohol, sex, or even going to the temples, doing the rituals. It's easy to get sucked into, because these are all material actions. And material actions will catch your attention and not allow you to go within. So if you do that, it's very easy to get stuck in the cycle of doing ritualistic things that you do repeatedly, thinking that that's where the pleasure is, and then you never have a chance to go within. So apramad, or the observation, sense of observation, is really needed to analyze our actions. And that's where the Mahavir goes deep into the non-violence. So the non-violence is something that Jainism is very famous for. But the question comes in, what is true non-violence? If you really go into the details of non-violence, everybody knows attacking someone, physically hurting someone, or even hurting someone with your vachan, man, vachan, and kaya. So whether you hurt someone physically, of course, is a violence. If you hurt somebody with your speech, is a violence. Even in your thoughts is a violence. But really go into the details, the Mahavir had a totally different view of the non-violence, which we're going to talk about. So fixing outside or concentrating only inside is also not going to help. For people like Mahavir, action and the thought are the same thing. If you get caught doing a murder, the court will punish you. There is a punishment for your physical act, but you can't go and tell the court that I committed somebody's murder in my dreams. You can't be held liable for it because it's not a crime. But for Mahavir, does not see the difference between thoughts and action, because action is always preceded by thoughts. So thoughts are interconnected with your actions. Just the way chicken is connected with the egg, and the egg is connected with the chicken. Mahavir, being a great thinker, he sees the whole thing as one continuous process. So he says that even at the thought level, if you think about hurting someone, that is violence. So thought or the action. So if you can say that thought is a spiritual version of an action, right? Because thought and action being interconnected, and action is a solidified thought. Do you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So the thought and actions being a continuous process, Mahavir looks at the whole thing in totality. So that is the difference between a crime and a sin. Sin is a religious crime, and crime is a solidified sin. So there is not much of a difference. But the whole level of your perception of violence changes. I may not like someone, I may not do any kind of physical harm to them. Say I may not even say bad words to them or hate them verbally or something. But the thoughts I can play around with it, because the society says It's not a crime. I can do whatever I want. It's my thoughts. Not realizing that the thoughts of hurting someone is also a violence, according to Mahavir. So, how deep you can get, we're going to go further deep into that. That this concept, Mahavir took it to such an extent, and then from his interpretation of non-violence, if you judge your actions, we all are violent, literally. So we'll talk about it. So Mahavir does not believe in any single concept. Mahavir, Buddha, Krishna, they all looked at the whole life in totality. They didn't stop at, say, life which comes alive with birth and then becomes extinct after you're dead. The life they knew has to have a more meaning than just the birth and death and things like it. It's almost like in the springtime, all the flowers, all the roses and everything, all the plants come out. In the summertime, it becomes dormant, but it didn't disappear. Give it proper time and everything comes back to alive. So it's the continuity that you have to focus on. So if you really understand the concept, if you put a pot in an ocean and the pot gets filled up with the ocean water, the water inside the pot is no different than the ocean outside. We create compartments. The soul within us is the same soul which is infinite, the same consciousness which has spread all over. We are all tiny parts holding on to small amount of space within us, the soul within us. But spiritually speaking, it's the same thing. So you can say that the water inside the pot is an extension of the whole ocean into a pot. Or you can say the water inside already has expanded outside. It's all a continuous process. Same way the soul within us is the consciousness filling us in. Or you can say that it's my consciousness that is spreading all over the universe. So it's a one continuous process and one total existence. At the existential level, there is no difference between you and me and him and you, and everybody is the same. And that's what ties us, everybody, together. But when the mind has a limited view, only materialistic view, people who are used to seeing only the world at five senses level, whatever they can touch, whatever they can smell, whatever they can hear, is all there is. They don't really have a concept or even a knowledge of the spirit that is existing inside. They're going to divide the life. They're going to say that this is life, this is material, and they will talk about soul, but they don't know what it is. They have never experienced what it is. They will not be able to see the connection between the soul and the body, right? So these are the people will get into discussion of chicken, eggs, and all. They divide. Mind tends to divide whole life into several compartments because the concept of totality is very difficult to understand. That's where the Advait comes into the picture. Because Advait says non-dual. It doesn't say one. Because if you say one, you're going to think, then where is the second? If you say the whole consciousness is one, there has to be so many consciousnesses, right? but that's why the word non-dual or the Advait was coined very smartly. There is no two. So forget about the concept of two. All you see are just the divisions created by our mind. So chicken and eggs are not two separate things. Body and the soul are not two separate things. It's a one continuous process. You can say the body is a solidified version of your soul, and soul is the most subtle aspect of the body. So once you realize the continuation, then it doesn't matter at what end you take. But if you get stuck at one point and not the other, you're not going to get the total picture. You can say, okay, I want to stop stealing. fine. You can do that. You can force yourself, but you do it with awareness that why I don't want to steal, why I don't want to commit. And then your mind is going to start becoming active. First, you say, okay, well, because my Dharma Guru said that I should not be stealing, so I'm not going to steal. But pay attention to the whole thing. What is going on within your mind? Okay, if you pay attention, you're going to say, yes, Dharma Guru told me I should not steal, but my desire is still there, that I still want to steal, right? So that's where the awareness comes into the picture. Then you're going to say, how come I'm not stealing, but how come I still want to steal? Then your thinking will take you further deep in, that, okay, now I have come this far. Why I want to steal? What is the reason? What am I trying to get? I'm going to get material things. Are they going to last all the time? Are they going to stay with me? All those things. I don't know which route you will take. But either way, the tool which is present in all this process is one. Apramad is the awareness. Do not get lazy and do not stop at one point. Continuous thinking and continuous awareness is always needed to analyze your own actions. So Mahavir says it doesn't matter which end you take. You start, forget about all these things. He says, no, I'm just going to meditate. Fine. You keep on meditating and you never put it in a daily life. What good is that anyway? But then that also is where the awareness comes in. That, okay, I'm doing all these things. I am the soul. I am then all these things. But as you go outside and perform all the things that are contradictory to your inside peace, then you're going to say, that's again, analysis has to be there. So that's where the total approach of life is extremely important. So that's how the whole vision has to change. When we look at a child, along with the child, his youth and the old age are built into it. If you see an old man, his childhood, his youth, his adulthood, all these things are built in. And his new life is built in too. So the totality allows you to step away from the forms, shapes, size, ideas. What's going to last long? You have to ask yourself. If you get carried away by somebody's beauty, imagine the same person 30 years later. All of a sudden, your attachment to the present form disappears. I say, yes, that's true. And look at yourself. Oh, I'm not happy the way I look. But then all these forms, this changing process is continuous. Change is permanent. Existence is permanent. Everything, a child exists, a youth exists, adult exists, old man exists. The things that tie everything is a permanent change, but even bigger than the change is the existence. Existence is always there, and existence is God. And that's where we all want to stay at that level, Brahma state. So, differentiation that we do, I'm not saying it's not necessary. You can't go to buy a chicken and the guy gives you an egg and he says, oh yeah, I can wait till the chicken comes out. But you want to eat chicken now. So differentiation is practical. For a day-to-day use, all this duality is needed. Just because your house and next door house you consider the same doesn't mean you can walk into neighbor's house and start living there. All these things are practical matters, but there is a deeper meaning to all these things. So differentiations are practical, but that's not the reality. But because the affairs of the world has to go on, we deal with duality all the time. But don't consider that as a final thing. There is more to life than just those day-to-day life. So, if you are practicing non-violence outside, and inside you are filled with violent thoughts, that cannot be non-violence of Mahavir. Mahavir looks at the whole life in its totality. He says, being non-violent outside and having violence inside is not acceptable. That means you are not aware of what you're doing. It could be the non-violence of Jains, but it's not the non-violence of Mahavir. And Jains do that. Oh, I'm going to save the ant. I'm not going to touch this. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. Inside, they have raging thoughts about, oh, he said this to me. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. All these inside violent thoughts are going on all the time. The society may have looked civilized, but is the civility there in people's minds? No. On the contrary, because they are not allowed to express their thoughts, there is an explosion of thoughts going on in people's mind. So Mahavir says, fix the whole thing. Don't fix just one thing and keep the other thing as it is. So the non-violence of Jains have a long way before they become Mahavir. All Jains are not Jinas, and all Jinas don't have to be Jain. Jinas you will find in Muslim or Hindus or Sikh, Isai, whatever. Jinas are the perfected people who have seen the life in totality, where the differences have disappeared. The duality has disappeared. So those are Jinas. But the Jains have a long way. They will have to go through millions of lives before they can perfect themselves to be a Mahavir. So there is a big difference. So awareness is all the time needed to practice non-violence. And with the awareness, you can discern where I'm going wrong. Yes, I'm not killing the ant, but am I thinking bad about other people? So all those things, details, the Mahavir goes into. So Mahavir says that soul, at the soul level, you are Shashvat. At the soul level, we are all infinite. At soul level, soul never dies. Fine. So how can you kill someone? The argument is that every body dies, but nobody dies. Because everybody is a soul. At the soul level, we exist forever. So Mahavir makes an argument. He says, killing an animal or an ant, you're really not doing anything. Killing does not exist. Same thing Krishna says. Tells Arjuna that you think you're going to kill all these people? The body dies. People cannot die. These are the souls which cannot live forever. So then, how can you call it a violence? But Mahavir says, killing someone may not be a violence, but having the thoughts that I can kill someone, the thought itself is a violence. Violence to your tender soul, which is ever free, which is totally subtle, and it's highly spiritual, that if you have a thought that I can kill someone, that thought itself is idiotic. Because practically speaking, if everybody is a soul, the body that you kill will be regenerated and the soul will be born at another level and another form will be taken, and the totality at the existential level, that will never happen. But the time or the moment you think that you can kill someone, you're getting sucked into the material aspect of life. Then your belief in the materialism persists. If I think I can kill you, that means I'm attached to your physical form. At the physical form level, I'm committing violence at my thought level. That thought is a fallacy. That brings you back into the same place where you started from. Your journey was meant to go to the spiritual level. All of a sudden, your firm thought that I can kill someone itself is a violence. So, a lot of awareness has to be needed. Now, all of a sudden, the opposite person is out of the equation. What happens to the ant, or what happens to the tiny insect, or to the human being, or kill the trees, all those things don't really matter that much. But what matters the most is what you are thinking at your mind level. you're committing violence. And it requires a lot of awareness to even to have a thought that you have a capacity to kill someone is a violence, according to Mahavir. It gets very deep and it's very, very subtle. So, argument still stays that Atma is Amar. Atma cannot die. But as soon as you believe, your thought starts arising that yes, I can kill someone is a violence. At the same time, if you think that by not killing someone, you are practicing non-violence is also a fallacy, because killing itself is not possible. So if you think that by not killing an ant, you're committing a big act, you're stupid. Stupid because your belief in the matter still exists. Whether you kill or don't kill, either way you are stupid. And stupid is exactly opposite of awareness. Apramad and pramad. So pramad means your fascination with materialism. Apramad means you're walking away from the solidity of life. You are dealing only with the spiritual aspect. But to go to that spiritual, you have to give up the concepts about materialism. Killing someone is bad, but feeling proud that you're not killing someone is also bad, because you either way matter is in your mind. When matter matters, matter minds. But when mind minds, matter doesn't matter, because you're going into more and more subtle aspects of life. So non-violence practice and being proud about it is also a stupidity, is also a violence in a way. So just the thought that you can kill someone is a wrong thought. It's the same way, like Rajneesh always gives an example. One of his uncle had kicked 1 lakh rupees, and he always bragged about it 20 years back, that I had 1 lakh rupees, which was a lot of money at that time, that I walked away from it and I took sannyas and this and that. So Rajneesh asked him, he says, how many years back was that? How many years did you kick 1 lakh rupees? He says, about 20 years. I'm totally in sannyas. He said, looks like you did not really kick it. It's still tied to your legs. You still believe. So whatever you did, you're taking pride in doing. You are material. The same way Jains have so much literature, all quoted, say Mahavir gave up this many elephants, this many horses. If you're going to give up, why talk about it? When you derive a pleasure from 1 lakh rupees or 1 million horses or 1 million elephants, you're taking pride in it, of course it's wrong. But when you walk away, the act of walking away, and you feel proud about walking away from this, that means that thing is still in your head. So you have not given it up. You're just using it in an opposite way. First you were feeling proud about having all these things. Now you're feeling proud about walking away from all these things. Either way, your ego is still there. Ego is your attachment. Ego means your material. Your connection with the material aspect of life is still there. The same way, if you kill someone is wrong, but not killing someone and feeling proud about it is also a fallacy. So Mahavir says that even a thought that you have capacity to kill someone is apramad. So start becoming more and more aware, and then you're rising yourself at the spiritual level. Violence, non-violence, all those things are at the mind level, not at the physical level. So Mahavir says bhav hinsa and sharir hinsa are the same. Even the thoughts about bhav hinsa. Bhav hinsa means a thought that you can kill someone is also violence. And that's why they say man, vachana and kaya. The Jains don't get it. They will not touch the ants. They will not do this. They will not do that. But they are always ready to brag about it. So the violence is happening right and left. So Mahavir says that killing a man, or even a thought that you can kill a man, is violence. So one who synchronizes themselves with the existence at the existential level, everything is connected. At the thought level or at the physical level, the connection is always there. But the whole goal of spirituality is to break away from the material aspect of life. That doesn't mean you walk away. You walk away and then you brag about it, or you walk away and get attached to different possessions. So far you were attached to your big house, now you're attached to your small hut. First you had your friends and your family to brag about, now you have your shishyas and all the followers that you brag about, that I have this many followers, and that you really have not walked away from sansar. Sansar is not physical sansar. Sansar is at the mind level. If at the mind level sansar does not exist, if you know that you are the soul, I'm not talking about just the philosophical discussion, I'm talking about the knowledge that you are the soul. At soul level, what difference does it make what's in front of you? Whatever comes, it comes. Whatever doesn't, it doesn't. Whether you're in a jungle or in a society, doesn't matter. So at that level, the cleansing has to be done, and it's very difficult because it requires significant awareness, and that awareness is precious. And awareness is something you can always practice, refine it, and you try to analyze each and every action, each and every thought that is happening at your mind level, and you realize what is violence and what is non-violence. So now, according to the Mahavir, outside has no value, because whatever is happening inside is automatically going to express outside. If the roots are strong, the tree will keep coming. You cut it off, will come back again. You cut it off, come back again. It's the root, the strength of the root that's more important. So your thoughts and your capacity to kill someone is blocking your path into spirituality. So an act of violence, of course, is a solidified thoughts. So murder is the ultimate expression of your ego. The ego believed that I am separate than this person, first of all. Two, ego felt that I need to survive and the other one cannot survive. So far thought level. But then actually committing the murder has to be the ultimate expression of your ego, that I am the most important person in the world and this person is not. Mahavir sees all these things as futile. Because you are the soul, when you believe the soul, the matter does not exist. Because just the way you are a soul, opposite person is also a soul. At the soul level, no crimes can be committed. Because soul cannot kill. Soul does not die. So the moment you think that murder, you want to do murder or commit a murder, of course it's wrong. But even if you think that, oh, I did not commit a murder, I did not kill the ant, and you take a pride of it, then also, according to Mahavir, you are just in a kiddie pool. You have a big ocean to go to, and have a long way to go. So now going further deep is where we are not talking about the physical harm to an animal or a human being or anything to that matter. So there are so many ways we can cause the violence in the world. Suffering, any kind of suffering that other person has to go through because of you, he calls it a violence. It may not be actual physical violence, but you create situations where the other person becomes uncomfortable. That he calls it violence. But now, realizing that making somebody unhappy or happy to that matter, whose decision is that?
Ours.
Ours decision. Think again. We try to harass Mahavir. They put iron nails in his ears. Didn't bother him. You put somebody on a throne, give him everything you want, make him a king, and he still could be unhappy. So who makes anybody happy or who makes anybody unhappy? Being happy or unhappy is an individual decision.
Yeah, so it's your own mind.
Agreed. That's what I said. You, meaning not the opposite person, but yourself has a decision to be happy or unhappy.
Correct.
Right? So you can give somebody everything. You can give somebody millions of dollars. But his or her frame of mind is not ready to accept it. $1 million goes to waste.
Correct.
Correct? The same way, any situation you create, and you, of course, creating on your side is a violence, but even after creating, it's the other person's choice whether to suffer or not. Pain is physical, suffering is mental, right? So if somebody decides to go beyond the mind, for him, it may not be suffering. At the same time, you try to make somebody happy, and the definition of happiness is different from an individual to individual. He may not be happy. So just the way we should not be hurting someone or think about hurting someone, now it becomes very profound that we don't even have to think about making somebody happy and definitely not making somebody unhappy.
Why?
Because just the same way, thinking that we can kill someone, you are in the material aspect of life, and it's a fallacy. Having thoughts that you can make somebody unhappy is a wrong concept.
How about happy?
Same thing. Your efforts, and you try to make someone happy, and if person does not become happy, think of your frustrations first of all.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying? You go through series of efforts just so that other person is happy, and other person does not become happy. What's going to happen to your efforts? And more than efforts, forget about the efforts, waste of time, all those things. What is happening to your mind level? Yet your mind level, you feel that you're capable of making someone happy. And that's against the spirituality. No one can make anybody happy. No one can make anybody unhappy.
But what if your effort becomes successful?
Maybe, maybe not.
Okay.
Right? And how long would it last? Because this is the material world we're talking about.
Yeah, correct.
If somebody, you gave your son a beautiful red convertible, he's very happy. You worked 5 years, 10 years to make that kind of money. You gave him the car. 2 months later, Daddy, I hate this car. What's going to happen to you? So no one can actually make anybody happy. The happiness has to spring, and I'm talking about true happiness, has to spring from within. So all the efforts that you made to make him happy not only goes down to the waste, the time that you wasted, and not only that, your belief in the matter never resolved. It continued to exist, and all the time you could have spent that energy to rise into the spiritual world, you wasted it. So the best thing you can do is become happy yourself. Forget about trying to make someone happy, and of course not trying to make anybody unhappy. Allows you more time to go within, and if a bliss comes in your life and you become happy, maybe the surrounding people will benefit and pick up a cue that this kind of life is possible, where you are in a state of happiness, which is perpetual, unconditional, not related to the material aspect of life. Something at the spiritual level, if you go into that zone, and who is preventing you from going into that zone? You yourself. Don't blame anybody else. You yourself are preventing yourself. First, by saying that I can commit a murder, it's a fallacy. You may not be committing a murder. Two, by trying to make someone unhappy, of course, is also wrong, because you're wasting your energy. Every single thought is nothing but consciousness. Consciousness is energy, and energy is creating multitude of thoughts. The moment we wake up till we go to bed at night, the thoughts are always coming. Every single thought is a form of divinity. How we use it is up to us. Every single thought is divine if we put it in the right way. Divinity will come in your life only if you put those thoughts to go towards divinity. But if you use those thoughts to go into the material aspect, which is pramad, and we are subconsciously doing this every single day, our focus is always on the matter. Whether you want to kill someone, it's a waste, Mahavir says. If you don't kill someone and brag about it, that I didn't kill someone, or I saved an ant today, or I saved an insect today and feel great about it, your belief in the matter still exists. Your thoughts, your precious thoughts, your precious energy, you continuing to solidify your thought about the matter. To you, chicken and eggs are still separate. You have not reached to the state that both are one. Right? So the same way, when you think that you're trying to make someone unhappy, that you have capacity to make someone unhappy, is also a wrong thought. It may not be. You put somebody in a miserable situation, the guy walks away smiling. Oh, I don't care. Whatever. It was his choice to remain happy in that situation. Or vice versa. You try to make someone unhappy, and no matter what you do, other person decides to be unhappy. You're still playing games at the mind level, at the matter level. Chicken you like, eggs you don't like, eggs you like, chicken you don't like, whatever, you're still not out of the equation. You're not looking at the bigger picture. Anytime the bigger picture will come in when you spend little time at Advait level, non-dual. So Mahavir's non-violence is a lot deeper than average people can think about. You can go to Mahatmas and all this thing, they say, oh, take the vows. Who's going to give you the vow? Who takes the vows? He says, okay, don't drink coffee or don't smoke or whatever right there. And you can say, well, it's good. He's trying to make you stop smoking. Nothing wrong with it. But what is happening at Mahatma's level's mind, he feels good that I am not smoking and you are. I am better than you. My ego, my position is better than you. And you can say, well, it's already making you inferior. So what are you going to get out of it? So at the mind level, what is happening is more important. So making someone suffer does not guarantee that he will suffer. Making someone happy, there is no guarantee that it will make them happy. So that means somebody's happiness and somebody's unhappiness is not your problem. Your problem is your happiness and your suffering. You know the Vedas? Ved, word, came from vid. Vid means knowledge. When your leg hurts, you think about your leg. You have 24 hours you pass, you never thought about your leg or finger, your head, until you have a headache, until you have pain in the leg. Then the knowledge comes in that I have the pain. And then you will do something about it. So the knowledge is very important. Vedas is the knowledge required to alleviate the sufferings of your mind. So Vedas is a science that will cure your suffering at the mind level. So Vedas is nothing but a prescription written by God that this is the way to reach to me. That come out of the concepts of definitely hurting someone, making somebody unhappy, but also come out the concept that you have the capacity to make someone happy. You don't. And when that happens, individual zones become very important. You stay within your zone and find out what is my happiness. If all these thoughts which were occupying your mind, you were wasting your precious energy, precious soul, precious consciousness trying to change the world, it's not necessary, it's counterproductive, not to the other people, but also to yourself. And definitely to other people also. Because if whatever you're trying to give, it may not be wanted. And whatever you give may not make them happy. So individual expansion of the space is very important. The moment you stop changing the world will take its own time and flourish. The moment you stop killing the elephants will flourish themselves. The moment you stop destroying the forest will take over the whole world and take away all the carbon dioxide problem. But our desire to reshape the world, our desire to change the world is what is hurting the world. World has its own consciousness. The same way, even at your life level, the people around you, you don't have to try to make them happy. You don't have to try to change them the way you want. Forcing your ideas on someone else is also violence, because you are interfering with that space. The ideas really should spring from within, and your respect for their ideas is extremely important, not only to give a respect to others, but also to believe that changing someone's ideas and forcing your ideas on someone else is a violence. So violence we are committing. Now, based on this, you analyze your life, and in 24 hours, how much violence we commit. Awareness is needed to analyze our actions, and not just the actions, but the thoughts. The thoughts are very subtle, and at every single thought, if it is devoted to the divinity, then we realize that at the divine level, every single person is important. Every single creature is important. Every single earthworm is important. And at that level, everybody has to have a space to breathe. And with this knowledge of non-violence of Mahavir, you put it in a daily life, and the life can be divine. So much for today.
Thank you. Very good.